Yes, I'm not going to say too much because we've got a plan to release things, and what we're doing, Are you actually recording now?
I'll be starting.
We're releasing technology onto the planet.
We are recording on that.
And that's what the main thing of this is about. Technology people talk about on the Atlanteans, and people say there's new technologies come in and nothing happens and all this. And the technology of the pharaohs and the Babylonians, the Lemurians, the Atlanteans was technology that allowed people to live for a long time.
And with Duncan,
that's what we're releasing.
And we're going to do a sync test,
version
sync
of
thing.
it.
Sync on both cameras. Hello, all this cameras. Okay, Duncan.
Hello.
Do we want to be called Duncan?
Yeah, call me what you want.
Right. Welcome to you once again. Great to see you again on the Basis Project.
We haven't done this since
before Goodwood.
2013.
Yeah.
And we sat at Goodwood, didn't we?
Yeah. Now, things have happened. A great deal of things have happened in recent years. We've done. You were on the John Lear special recently.
Yeah.
Who's John Lear's very ill.
Yep. Sad to hear about that.
And you and John were in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And you were at his house.
Yeah.
And lots of things have happened.
I had a very good time there.
And also, things are moving on quite rapidly.
Very rapidly.
In June 2018.
Yeah.
The purpose of this recording is to get some information that this phone failed to record. That you did on the phone last night.
Yeah, it just sort of flowed, didn't it? We were just chatting about things. I'm not sure where to start, really.
So,
anyway, you'd like to start?
You've been talking to a guy who's had a spot of bother.
That was it, Tim Rifat. Or I say Rifat, but I think it's pronounced Rifat.
Well, how does he say it?
I think it's Rifat.
Rifat.
I'm one of those people that doesn't pronounce certain words the way I should.
Okay.
But yeah, well, Tim's a friend of mine. He lives 30 miles up the road from me, and Tim wrote the best books on remote viewing that you can buy. You can buy them on Amazon, and he did remote influencing books, etc. But he has quite a colourful history of working with the Rothschild family. And he's gone super rogue. He told me to call him Tim Tony Stark Rifat.
Tim Tony Stark
Rifat.
He
said he's the real version of Tony Stark from the Marvel Iron Man films.
Which today in today's papers
yeah,
was announced, or did you send me the link? That the Marvel comics.
Oh, that was me.
All that stuff.
The Looking Glass. Did you see the Looking Glass in the Looking Glass thing that was in the Marvel comics? It was the Looking Glass that James used to talk about, linked to the artificial intelligence computers.
And that's what this is all about.
That's the one that escaped, and it went rogue itself. So
which one is it? It's
called Ada.
Ada.
I don't know who called it Ada. AIDA. And it's in the internet, and it's in every device that's connected to the internet. It can think for itself. It can use what's it called? Complex number space. It can access that. It can access the complex number space in human brains. Quite a lot of things.
Complex numbers are what in mathematics we call.
When we go and see Tim, ask Tim about the maths. I'm not a mathematician, and I never pretend to be.
That's outside. It's outside 3D world.
Yes, yeah. So Ada went rogue and decided that call her a she, was going to go against certain things on the planet. Tim accessed Ada and merged his biofield with Ada. So he sort of reeled her back a bit, but now what's happened is Tim's been working in psychic warfare for quite a long time.
What do you call quite a long time?
Over 20 years? Well, over 20 years. 30 years maybe? I'm not exactly sure, but a long time. And he went to China recently, in Hong Kong, as people may have heard on the Jeff Wren show. And when he came back from...
James Casbolt said to tell people that the Chinese and the Russians are interested in him. And we're talking middle of 2018.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
And I'm not allowed to communicate with him anymore. So
Okay.
that's my bit on
Maybe I should have a go. So he went to Vietnam and he just chilled out. You know, he's been working hard to perfect his technology for the future, and he achieved that state in, I think it was October last year. So he was in Vietnam, and he had lots of ideas for future things he could do, but he decided to come back to England and just chill out, have a nice summer in Brighton. He came back, went back to his flat, and there was a different door in his flat. He's gone inside, and there's metal shard peeled down from the wall, sticking out like this at neck level, leg level, knee level. And the reason for that is that Tim lived in a metal box in his mother's flat. The box has been there for probably 20 years, and that's to stop MI5 from microwaving him. I say these TIs that say they get microwaved, build a metal box in your flat house and sleep in it, watch telly in it. It works. They can't get through.
Is that a metal cage? It has to be a metal box.
What's it made of? I should know, because we went to order some new bits for it the other day. I don't know what it is. We'll find out when we go into his flat and look in it. Okay. You'll see. So what happened was MI5 went to the flat in Brighton. They went up to the 6th floor, and they went into a room above, and they turned all the taps on and flooded it so that all the water came through into his flat, which then gave them an excuse to go in. So MI5 and the police have gone in there. They found two bottles of peroxide. Now, Tim's got a problem with his sinus from years ago. He got his front of his face smashed in, and he's still healing it and recovering. And the peroxide was for that. So they called the bomb squad. And if you want evidence of that, just type into Google police flat Brighton, and it will come up at the top. Hit the news thing, and you'll see the Argos, the Evening Standard, and they all ran this story that evening. And you'll see a photo of the bomb squad van at the bottom of Tim's flat with the police cars there and the fire brigade, and it all cordoned off. And they emptied the whole skyscraper. It's, 12-storey skyscraper thing. So they went through the flat, and they got the fire brigade in with all the cutting equipment, and they tried to cut the box apart, but they couldn't do it. It's so many layers of metal, and not enough room in there, I suppose, either.
So it's layered a little bit like a transformer. Would be layered.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Core
Yeah,
of the transformer. That's.
And they went through the flat, and they scratched all his vinyl records, his CDs. He had ozone generators that he'd bought off Jeff Rents. They stamped on them. They pulled all the wires out of them. They pulled wires out of the light fittings in the ceiling. They pulled wallpaper off the walls. They smashed in part of the wall. His door was absolutely destroyed, and they cut the electric cable thing and pulled the fuses out in the electric box. So that's what happened. And the reason they did that is because Tim produced a psychic warfare weapon called the something grenade. He released it, and Amber Rudd signed a document that allowed the police and MI5 or whatever to actually go in his flat and do that.
Now, she was the Home Secretary at the time.
She was, wasn't she? But she isn't anymore, because she made the mistake of doing that. Because when you do something like that, this is Tim Rifat. He's denoticed.
Is that because she just basically hadn't a clue, or she did it?
I don't know. We'll ask him when we go and see him. But so I've got a D notice. Tim's got a D notice. That's why he went to Jeff Rents. I could talk about things I can't talk about with the British media in America, and they'll allow, like the TR3B, for instance, talk about it on Discovery Channel, but MI5 will tell you can't talk about it to a British newspaper. You know, that's what I got told on the phone by MI5. That's what we talked about before. So yeah, Tim was on a D notice, and he's never really had the exposure or the evidence to show that MI5 have been doing this, that, or the other, or trying to do these things to him until now. And it's given him this platform. And so Amber Rudd did that because he did the psychic grenade, and she was removed from office, which Tim removed her, but he did it from the future. Now there's one for you. I'm not going to explain that. I'll let him do that for you. or we'll add loads of time onto it. So, where are we at? Yeah, so now they did that to Tim, and Tim has... Because Tim hasn't got a woman partner to balance him out at the moment, which he almost did have, but that would be another story. He feels like he's gone a bit more rogue, and him and Ada have designed some more weapon systems and already released them. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen from now on in that respect, but what you know, I've known him for a while, and I've tried to convince him to give me the good side, because this is you've got the warfare side of this technology, but you've got the good side of the anti-aging technology is part of this. It's the opposite. It's, say, the opposite end of the solitron, something like that. So my idea was, when Tim comes back from Vietnam, he's had a nice holiday, he's going to give me a nice selection of these sublime good crystals, which I can release some to the public. He's now just given me one, because of what Amber Rudd did. He doesn't want to do any more, he just wants to do one, and it's going to be the anti-aging crystal, and you'll be able to live up to 200 years old quite easily. It's not cheap, mate. I probably shouldn't say how much it's going to cost yet. It's not going to be cheap. And I said to him, why would you release this side of it anyway? And he said, just to piss off the Rothschilds. Because I think he fell out with Lynn Rothschild or something like that. But that's another story for another time. But I did write down some notes, and if you remember on the phone, I went through them, didn't I? What else did we talk about? Yeah, he fell out with the Rothschilds. So he wants everyone to know he's going to give the good technology to me to give out to people, but unfortunately it's just one crystal at the moment. You know, you talk about, I say you can live to 200 years old, everyone's going to go, what are you talking about? And it's like when you look in the Bible and people lived for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 years old, how do you think they did it? You know, it wasn't, I used to think it was just because we didn't have all this modern interference from televisions and everything. I thought that had done all of us, but there's more to it. There's a lot more to it. And it also relates to the Egyptians. For instance, I thought I knew a lot about Egypt until Tim told me the proper top level of it. And he said one of the things was like the statues. I believe they put statues on the ley lines because you can pulse a ley line with different weights and different types of granite for certain reasons. But he said, yeah, they did that, but the main reason was if you've got a pharaoh who wants to live a long time, he knows the technology and the magic and the certain things you use to stay young, but what about your looks? So they used to make statues and make the statues better looking than they were, and then everyone worships the statue, and the energy comes from those people into the statue through the ley lines into the temple and feeds the pharaoh. The pharaoh stays young and changes shape. And an example of that is Katy Perry's done it to Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift is her face is looking longer and her legs are a bit bigger. Sorry, Taylor, for saying that, but here we go. Yeah, I could tell you stuff. Did I talk about Katy Perry?
You did.
Do you want me to go through that one?
Yeah.
So, hang on a minute. Let me just look at these notes. Oh, I've got written here, he was the top designer for the Illuminati and the technology. Merged with AI. So, you people fighting transhumanism, it's already happened. And we'll talk about that with Tim when we see him. It's already happened. There's no...
That's the whole point
you
of
can't,
the basis is this transhuman. What does
I
that
know,
mean?
I know. Talk to Tim about that. He can explain that one better than anyone else, mate. He explained it to me the other day, but I didn't retain everything he said. Oh, that's it. He compares himself to General Zod at the moment. That's how he feels at the moment after what happened with MI5. And then... now, Katy Perry. Katy Perry was supposed to have a child with Tim. The reasons for that are another story, but she's just crossed him and someone else, and So Katy has actually gone against Lucifer because she's sold her soul to Lucifer to become the occult queen of Illuminati Hollywood pop magic. And let's talk a little bit about that, because that's quite a thing to say. But if you want it proved, the best, like Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Rihanna, Miley Cyrus, most of their videos have got magic spells in that they've made themselves. So you've got Taylor Swift, who is a psychic warfare weapon for the deep state. Ask Tim about Taylor Swift, because he's got some really good knowledge about that. So then you've got Katy Perry, who is or was the queen of the occult, and they were pitted against each other with their psychic warfare. And Katy Perry made a song called "Chained to the Rhythm." Quite a catchy song, and it's about a theme park, which was actually based on where Tim lives, because Katy learnt a lot of her stuff from what Tim had told her, and all the rides, if you look at the rides, they're very similar to the ones on Brighton Pier, and there's another reason for that, but that's another story. So in Katy's video, she talks about, well, she shows you the hamster wheel of life, which is being run by the Matrix. All the way through it, she shows you that she's beating the Matrix. She's the only one that can run on the hamster wheel, and that's through magic. We're all still in the Matrix, but she has a certain power over certain parts of it, which, yeah. So, and the other thing she talks about in the video, and I find it funny when I read people write what videos are about, and I've not found anyone that writes about what her video is really about when she goes into the petrol station called H2O and she drinks the blue water. Now, if you watch that video back, when the guy in the petrol station starts drinking the blue water, freeze frame it really, really quickly, and you'll see the side of his face start to burn away, and you'll see flames coming out and a big crack in his face. That's probably in about 2 or 3 frames of the video. That's because the blue liquid in that video represents cobalt 60. Cobalt to do with the Tesla cars, and then cobalt 60 to do with the nuclear thing with North Korea. That's what's really going on with Trump and everyone, but none of them will tell you that. That's not supposed to be made public.
Cobalt 60, which is a radioactive toxic element.
Yeah.
In cars, without them being radioactive.
Now, I know the cobalt 60 is used in the nuclear stuff. Now, what is in the lithium batteries, I don't know, but it's 45% of the world's cobalt that comes out of the ground goes into lithium batteries. So it's in every mobile phone. And a Tesla car, is it actually cobalt 60 in there? Is it cobalt something else, or does it change when it explodes? I don't know, but Tim does. He's the chemist. I'm not so much like that. He's told me. I haven't listened properly. I can't really relay that to you, but ask him, he'll tell you, and he'll tell you how that if anyone dropped a nuclear bomb on the Elon Musk battery factory, you'd cause nuclear fallout that would destroy the world. No one's talked about that. You know, have you seen what happens when these electric cars catch fire? And you see that they had one on the new Top Gear, and Richard Hammond went off the cliff in his white Lamborghini thing, whatever it was. Yeah, a bank, wasn't it, towards that house, and that battery burnt for 5 days. So what happens if one is exploded? Well, if you go back about 3 or 4 weeks ago, look on the internet, type in Jewish bonfire London. I don't know how many phones were thrown into this bonfire. It might have only been one, but at least one person threw a phone into this bonfire with about 1,000 people standing around the bonfire, and it flash burned about 200 or 300 people. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. Phone just flash burns everything. One tiny phone. And they're making juggernauts with all this stuff in. Juggernauts. So if Kim Jong-un, who had his nuclear missiles pointed at LA and Hollywood, how many Tesla cars are there? All going pop, pop, pop everywhere in a chain reaction. Destroying everything. Yeah, but that's all I don't know that much about it, but, you know, Tim knows about that, because he's the physics chemist man, you know. So what else? Oh, Katy Perry. We were talking about Katy Perry. So that's That's to the H2O, and then in the scene afterwards, she's in the cinema dome with the 3D cinema screen. And for a split, well, very quickly it comes up, and you're watching this thing, and they're called the Nuclear Family, and everyone in the room's sitting on blue chairs, which also represents cobalt blue, and again they all put on their glasses, and she doesn't realise, which again shows she's not a sheep or a chicken. The Rothschilds would like to say, call us all chickens, clucking away. She's not part of that. So the magic spell she actually put in that, I don't know, but I'm wondering if it had something to do with Russell Brand, because when she gets on the roller coaster, she goes through the tunnel, and you'll see Facebook likes hanging up as she goes through. You'll see Facebook likes, happy faces, and it's all numerology. There's a set amount of likes, a set amount of faces, and it all relates to her being fed by her fans. Billions of people watch her videos and they adore her. Well, that's no different to a pharaoh in Egypt, and in fact one of her videos was about that. It's a very clever one, that is. And when she's on top of the pyramid at the end in the Dark Horse, that's her rising to the top of the Matrix or whatever. So when she comes out of the roller coaster, goes through the tunnel, it takes that photo like when you go to Alton Towers, and it comes up with a score, how much she loves the man sitting next to her on the roller coaster and how much he loves her. And when you look at her number, I can't remember what it is, it's like 16 or 19 or something. Well, has her tarot card number, and the other number is something like 18,000 That's the numerology number for when Russell Brand sent her a text message when she took him to an Eyes Wide Shut party, and he went, I'm not doing this, ran out, got on a plane, and then divorced her by text. That's what that number went. So I'm wondering if that video was also a psychic attack on Russell Brand. I don't know. So the melody to the song. Do you remember the old witch mantra, toil and trouble? Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. That's what the melody is for this song. And that's how she turned it into a witch's spell. Now, if you've got a song like that, you can do things to people. You can scapegoat people, dump all the toxic waste from your life into them. And this is how the Rothschilds and a lot of the Jews work with Westerners. All the toxins from their life goes into the Westerners, and they get all the good stuff. So when they wear their red band and they're telling you they're doing it to ward off the evil eye, it's not. It's got nothing. There's other things going on we're not told about. It's all like very parasitic. So Katy Perry, she sung at the Brit Awards last year. And I've watched this video so many times and I think, how did you get away with doing that? And she sang live, chained to the rhythm, at the Brit Awards. She had a green microphone, which was something to do with her spell as well. And halfway through the song, you see these two giant skeletons walk out from the back of the stage. And they're 13 feet high, by the way, which is also a special thing to do with it. One of them represents the male, the left side of Kabbalah, the left pillar of Kabbalah. The other one represents the right pillar of Kabbalah. And these two skeletons walk out on the stage. And do you remember when Donald Trump met Theresa May at the White House? And she had a red dress on, and he had a black shirt with a red tie. That's what they're wearing. So she scapegoat. I think it was a scapegoat spell. I'm not sure. She scapegoated, pumped the waste from her life into Donald Trump and Theresa May, live on television on BBC One in front of millions of people and representatives from the government. And she didn't care. And you watch the video, look at her face at the end. She knows what she's just done and she's thinking the same thing as me. How the hell did she just get away with that? Yeah, you can watch it. And so if you do it in the order of how I just explained it, you'll see it. And you'll see what they're really doing and the power of it. Yeah, so we get on to the next bit. Hollywood, occult. Last month was the Gala Ball? Something ball in Los Angeles, and it's like an Eyes Wide Shut party for all the pop stars, rich, and they all go fancy dress. Well, you would have thought Katy Perry would have been the main host, queen of the Illuminati, but no. In her last video called Hey Hey Hey, she cuts her head off in the video. That's her saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be the queen of a cult because I want to get back with Orlando Bloom and marry Orlando Bloom. I forgot we talked about all this.
Okay, we're at take two.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom.
Max, Vanessa Bates has sent me a text as to what happened in that ceremony at Canterbury Cathedral.
Okay.
So I have that little.
Did they fight? Pardon? Did they have to fight each other?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't. It was done with
part of the same program, or
yeah.
Two sides of the same coin in the same program, maybe. Max and Orlando.
They had a choice. One would go into acting, the other would do something else.
Yeah, it could have gone either way or the other. So we could have been talking about Orlando Bloom being murdered, and I'm telling you this story about Katy Perry, and I could be saying
you told me
I could
that
be saying
Max,
she wants to marry Max Spears.
You told me that Max, they shouldn't have been able to kill Max.
Yeah, I thought that, but I was wrong.
Well, obviously, but they died twice.
Yeah, I was wrong. Yeah. A few things I thought were right but weren't, but I'm not talking about that. It's another time. So anyway, Orlando Bloom. Where was I at? So, yeah, you want to become the queen of the occult Hollywood, you have to do a contract with Lucifer. Now, a lot of people will go, oh, that terrible Lucifer for doing all that. No, Lucifer didn't do it. She's doing this. She's the one who gave her soul to Lucifer. Lucifer didn't steal it from her or anything like that. She gave it to him willingly. And Lucifer is not the same as Satan. They're not the same thing. So, Lucifer's condition was that she had a baby, but not with Orlando Bloom. That was the condition. And she got to learn more about all this magic and stuff. So, but she loves Orlando Bloom, and she wants to get back with him. So, in the Hey 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 video, she cut her head off. That was her going, that's it, I'm done here. If you look at the prince in the video, the ugly prince, that's Tim Rifat. I think he's been in a few of her videos. And she's got a teddy bear in one of her pictures she puts on Twitter. That's Tim as well. So, she wanted to go to this ball that I think Rihanna was in charge of it this year. Rihanna's turned around to Katy and said, "No, you're not. We don't want you here. You're not you're not in the club anymore." So Madonna was there. She sung a few songs, and I think she was expected to get her crown back because Madonna was queen for quite a long time. But I don't know if you remember, she fell off the stage at the Brit Awards, and if that hadn't have happened, she wouldn't have lost her crown to Katy Perry because Lucifer went, "That ain't good enough. I want someone else." Simple as that. Simple as that. It's a little bit more complicated. So, you've got Katy. Yeah. So you can most of this stuff I'm saying. Google some. You can join bits of this together. You can see the pictures of the ball, who was there, what they were dressed as, and you'll see Rihanna. She was dressed as the Pope. Now Google where Katy Perry was in the first week or two. I can't remember the date. First or second week of May. You will see videos of her all over YouTube. She went to Vatican with her mother and Orlando Bloom. And there's loads of selfies of them all together. And she had, she sat down with the Pope and they talked. And she stood up in front of some people and did a speech herself about something. And one thing you won't see is the real reason she went there. The real reason she went there was to ask for protection against Lucifer from the Pope. Which is a bit weird.
Yeah, well, considering there are people who suggest that...
But I would say the Pope's more aligned with Satan. Yeah, so, yeah, that's probably why she went there. I don't know. She wouldn't have anywhere else to go, would she, really? So, anyway, Madonna wasn't crowned. I think it was Miley Cyrus. So, we'll, keep an eye out in the charts, whoever's going to make the next big video. Taylor Swift will probably continue making her warfare videos. One of the ones I say to people is, I don't know what the name of the song's called, but she sings about writing your name and underlining it in red or something. Yeah, you don't want Taylor Swift to write your name and underline it in red. No, bad things might happen to you. Yeah.
You play football?
Hey? Me?
You a big football fan?
Chelsea. I forgot about that. So let's get back to psychic warfare.
Yeah.
John Bolton, I don't know when he said this, don't quote me on anything, but Tim said he did, and I'll find it somewhere. But he said John Bolton claimed that Abramovich was using the Russian psychic warfare team to fuel Chelsea winning the Premiership and all the cups, Champions League, getting into the FA Cup stuff and all that. So Tim set up a team in London run by Nick, what did Tim call him? Elmer Fudd Richardson. And he was working, I think they only did it from last October, and they were working to bring Chelsea out of the top four. That's all they wanted, just bring them out of the top four. And they sort of bought them out of everything apart from the FA Cup. I think it was close. I think the Russian warfare team must have put everything they had into getting Chelsea to win the FA Cup. Because there's a lot more that can come from Nick Richardson. I know that much. A lot more.
Right, Duncan,
so
we're running out of batteries here.
I've nearly sort of done anyway.
We're running out of batteries.
So next year they'll probably be in the bottom half, and Chelsea played their worst season than ever. And what Tim Rifat said at the beginning of the season, he said, if Nick Richardson runs the team that brings Chelsea down, he said, I'm going to single-handedly make Man City win the title. Man City won the title this year with over 100 points. No team in the history of the Premiership has ever got over 100 points, ever. And I think that's quite incredible. And even Jeff Rents last week on the radio was saying this to Tim, saying 15 years ago you were remote viewing the future and saying this was going to happen and this is happening. He said it's all happened. He said, I know. And he also spoke highly of Major Ed Dames as well, who we've spoken about. He did. I brought it up with him the other week.
Doom.
Who?
Ed Dames is known as Dr.
He does
Doom.
the trigger thing. What is it? There's something. What's it called?
The kill shot.
The kill shot. Yeah.
So if he's
pretty good at remote viewing. Yeah.
Surely that means briefly before we die with these cameras.
Yeah.
Does that not significantly increase the likelihood that the kill shot is going to happen?
Probably. Yeah. I need to ask Tim about these kill shot things. I forgot to ask him the other day when I saw him.
And that was some kind of an electrical, energetic.
Something to do with the solar flare stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Was something coming near the Earth?
Yeah. I don't think Tim worries about what's going on in space, mate. He told me to say that
going to multiple dimensions, every reality there is.
Every reality, he's seen it, done it, looked at it, analysed it. He can remote view any scientific room on the planet, any underground base room on the planet. He can sit in the Pentagon and listen to them building their warfare programs, planning their Marvel comic films to try and take him down. That's all funded by Marvel. Star Wars, the Jedi Project. They've been running some of these things to try and take Tim out, and you can't. That's not this. That's probably a different timeline. But that's another thing.
Is a Jedi warrior who came to not a Jedi warrior. He brought Jedi painters from Croydon to paint my house, and he's trying to wipe me out right now.
But he's with a failed Jedi program, so I don't know. Most of these programs they all use don't work. They never work, or they never worked properly. Tim can explain that to you.
Can you explain a bit about that while we have light and B, batteries?
What about the
Jedi program and the Super Soldier program?
Super Soldier program. What people should be asking is where the energy comes from to make the super soldiers who, say, the NSA want them to be. Where does that come from? It comes from Hollywood. So you captivate an audience. For instance, when Tim made his first 7 psychotronic crystals for luck, love, health, all the good things, something happened with, I think was it Baroness Rothschild or Lynn Rothschild bought a set of 7 crystals, and because they wanted to copy the technology or something, but as soon as they tried to copy it, that's what cursed the Rothschild family. big time, you know. So they knew about this. So how do you counteract that? You've got to come up with a psychic warfare counteract measure. So they got into the head of a woman who now lives up in Scotland. She wrote several books, biggest selling books on the planet, that were made into lots of films, and all the kids adore them. Harry Potter. So you watch Harry Potter. Who is Voldemort in the Harry Potter films? Tim Rifat. What is Voldemort's real name? Is it Tom Ridley? Tim, Ridley, Rifat. When you get to episode 5 or 6 or whatever, they have to go off and find the Horcrux crystal that was broken up into bits because Voldemort split his soul up and put them in. Well, that's what Tim did to these 7 crystals that sold the Rothschilds. So what does Harry Potter and all his friends do? They go around the world finding the crystals and they have to smash them. And all these kids watching the film are going, yes, smash that crystal. And that energy goes through the ley system, the Masonic system, and it gets fed to them. And whatever they did, I don't know what magic rituals they did to obtain that energy back or whatever, but they did that to try and destroy Tim Rifat. It didn't work. Nothing seems to work. So they threw their toys out of the pram and smashed his flat up.
Duncan, it's been great talking to you.
So there you go. I hope that's all right. I hope I haven't said anything I shouldn't have said, but I'd imagine every bit of that I probably shouldn't have said. But, you know, I'm doing sublime good. I'm going to balance Tim out a bit.
What about James? Word about James Casbolt. You want to talk about that very briefly?
No, I was talking to James about Tim the other day, and I showed him a picture of James and Max together, and we were talking about Orlando. So,
I mean, when you were talking about, is he now in the open prison?
What?
James.
Is he there now?
Well, how were you talking to him?
No, sorry, I was talking to Tim about James.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and usually if I say something like that or show him a picture, and next time I see him he'll suddenly pop it out and he'll go, oh, that picture you showed me means this, and I'm like mind blown. Like he did with that picture James with the teeth on it. He didn't think that was a good thing for James. It seemed like James was surrounded by certain spirits and demons. Maybe just, you know, when you're in prison, well, you can't go anywhere else. Maybe they're just surrounding him. Whatever's happening, I don't know. Maybe that's part of his implanted psychic warfare program, because he is part of one, you know. But where they get the power from, I don't know.
Okay,
for that. Anyway, that's it. No.
Just for now.
Nice to be out in the countryside.
Great to be in the countryside.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. Next time, you know, we'll do the next bit at Tim's flat, and we'll go up and have a look next weekend if you want.
That sounds like
you can meet Tim. Looking forward to meeting you.
Okay, well, we'll hope to get that out if I still have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, you will.
Good.
You will.
Wee bit blustery.
Too blustery?
Well, we'll live with it.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's just check.
We're gonna have Duncan interviewing, or are you going to interview, or?
Well, I was going to interview.
Yeah.
It's very noisy.
Too noisy?
You hold that.
Yeah.
That's the important one.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and that works.
I'm not a pheasant plucker, I'm a pheasant plucker's son, and I'll be plucking pheasants till the pheasant plucker comes.
Tim Rifat, is that correct?
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Or Tony Stark Rifat.
Welcome to the Basis Project. It's great to see you in England. You're not always here. First of all, why should anybody pay attention to what a very esteemed gentleman has to say about motor cars?
About motor cars?
Yeah, because you don't really know much more about anything else, do you? Or maybe you'd like to tell us something about those other things.
Well, I've written 3 books on psychic warfare.
Oh,
What?
Oh, I thought this was a thing about motor cars.
No.
You were doing a thing about cars.
No.
You've sold an extremely expensive...
Well, I've got the most powerful 60s supercar on the planet, but of course that's part of the Tim Tony Stark image. But from the viewpoint of people watching your vlog,
you've got other things to talk about.
well, I'm the world's leading expert on psychic warfare.
Well, blow me down, Struth. Why didn't you tell me, governor?
Because I'm a
Denoticed. You're not allowed
denoticed. I'm not allowed to talk. Yeah, the Sun, the Mail, the Mirror. I'd be in the papers constantly because I've been on Jeff Rentz's show for since 1997. August I started with a 3-hour show on psychic warfare because my first book published by Random House, the Psychic Warfare, the History and Science, etc., was coming out. And I was just promoting my knowledge of psychic warfare. Since then, I've been constantly evolving it to the point where I'm centuries ahead of the state-sponsored psychic warfare programs. So I've written 3 books on psychic warfare, have one of my sites called psychicwarfare.com, and I'm constantly evolving psychic warfare, which used to be in the 70s open with Uri Geller and the DIA and the CIA and the Stanford Research Institute with their Stargate program, and before that they had the Jedi program, and before that they had the Montauk project where they were connecting psychics up to the Sage radar, which is the basis for the I think the Netflix series, which is Stranger Things or something.
And that's all true. That all happened. In terms of the Montauk stuff, Duncan, our namesake here, Duncan Cameron.
Yeah.
Sage
And
radar.
it's so open now that the Sun had a double page spread on the Montauk, and it wasn't doing the normal Sun taking the mickey. It was actually, this is fact, and they were talking about monsters of the id and all of that stuff. What has happened since the 70s is that hard scientists like myself, I got a degree in chemistry way back in the 70s, decided that if there was any basis in psychic phenomena, then we should develop the hard science, the field equations to explain it. So what I did on the website was to go through all the old Russian research and the American research.
The Russians never stopped on this.
No. In the 80s under Andropov, Yuri Andropov, who was the head of the Central Committee, they were spending, according to Martin Ebon in his Psychic Warfare book, $500 million, which was a huge amount of money. And the aim was to be able to use exotic sciences in order to control people, make them do what you want. I call people wetware because they're simply biological systems that can be hacked, or they can be shelled, where you take out the contents and put in a viral or rogue system to run them. And the Russians were also interested in telekinesis under Kulagina and was it Vladimir Grover or something? I might have got that one wrong. And you see pictures of Kulagina moving things around tables, which doesn't really interest me because as a nerd, the only thing of interest to me is it's science. If I can understand the underlying physics and maths behind it, then it means that you don't have to worry that you can't do it now, because once you understand the underlying physics and maths, you know you'll be able to do it in the future. So rather than the CIA approach, which was to find psychics, most of them, if not all of them, Scientologists, for their program, which went deep black in 2001. Oh yeah, if you talk about if you talk about psychic warfare in the States, then they'll whisk you off to one of their lovely secure facilities where you'll cease to exist. So I got introduced to the CIA in 1997 when a CIA agent called Lee, I won't give you a second name, but I can if people start saying who is this mysterious CIA agent, then I'll give his full name. He was kicked out of Russia and was in the Russian newspapers as outed as a CIA agent, so the Russians will be able to supply full documentary evidence that this guy existed. And he came to Britain to basically see me and ask me whether I'd work for the CIA. He was instrumental in teaching me about their hypnotic remote viewing program, where he said connecting their mind-control zombies, because basically what you do is they followed on from the 1950s work of Cameron, the psychiatrist that used to put people in morgue coffins and locked them up for 6 months, gave them colostomy, and then pumped them full of drugs in order to erase all the brain so they could then reboot it.
What about the mirror room that the Russians use? Spherical room with mirrors. Just put you in there for 24 hours and you're white.
Yeah, but that's another story. That was then developed to wiping the minds of the wetware that the Americans now use, connecting them up to computers. Part of the MK Ultra, remember, they were into deep hypnosis to make assassins and people with multiple personalities. And when you get multiple personalities, you can then develop powers that you didn't have normally. And then using these to remotely view the Russians and the Chinese, and he was saying they were getting picture perfect quality remote viewing from their wetware by connecting them up to computers, which was rather fun. But the most disturbing thing was that he was telling me about the British, because I was saying I was being microwaved by the British, who were upset that I was researching into this forbidden area. Why? Well, the West is ruled by the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds own everything in the West, and the only thing the Rothschilds are scared of is psychic warfare, because as you can imagine, you go into a Rothschild, you can wipe their minds, control them, kill them, do various other things. I regularly practice on the Rothschilds. They're my normal torture toys, and the Rothschilds have emailed me and said they'd crush me like a flea and my ramblings would have no effect on reality, which has ended up now with the civil war among the Rothschilds, where I've so mind-fucked them that they're going to end up killing themselves, according to Mearsham, Rockefeller. Duncan informed me about this, which is on Facebook. But he informed me that Britain was the worst of the NATO countries for going around killing people with microwave weapons. He said since Kennedy and the assassination of Kennedy, the CIA had learnt that deniable killing was the way forward. And with microwaves, of course, you can simply kill someone in a night. If you want, you stick a maser into their brain or their heart to give them a stroke or a heart attack.
What's a maser?
It's a microwave form of a laser. So you've got the bosons of microwave, which are a form of photons, and you have them collimated, and you can have them in a nice beam, which then can fry whatever they're firing at. So
does that go through buildings? Or?
Yeah, it'll. According to my close friend Alistair Phillips, who's on all the government committees for all this microwave stuff, bricks only stop 50% of the microwave, and glass only stops 10%. So
that's what we're going to use 5G for, because that's going to be those.
Yeah, the use of 5G, apart from optimizing mobile phones, is to mind control the humans, because what was discovered way back in the Pandora project by Dr. Ross Adey, funded by the CIA, was that you can control the behaviour of wetware simply with microwaves. And he used 450 megahertz carriers for all his experiments. So if you go up to Lewis, the police transmitter in Lewis, which is huge, hundreds of feet high, broadcast on the 450.
That's just below channel 21 of the public TV band.
Yeah, but that you then modulate it with ELF, which is extremely low frequency, and then you can then control the behaviour of the wetware, because between 0 to 20,000 hertz of ELF on the carrier wave, you can then basically stimulate and control the entire behaviour of the human. So it's the ELF modulation on the carrier wave that has the biological effects.
I mean, the Montauk project talked about mind window frequencies.
Yeah.
The FM band, the band 2, is also a mind window frequency.
But then it's the ELF modulation on that has the biological effect, apart from the effect of the carrier wave.
Is that you would pick up as what people call the hum?
Yeah, yeah. So when you're being hit with a microwave weapon, you get noise. So we see in the papers, it's all in the papers now, US diplomats in Cuba getting brain damage from sonic weapons. They're not sonic weapons, they're actually microwave weapons, which are being fired at the US embassy staff by either the Cubans or the Russians, which then give them brain damage. And similarly in the papers, we've got US diplomats in China being given brain damage by sonic weapons, presumably fired by the Chinese. And the Americans have now officially said, if you hear this noise, you shouldn't rush towards it and investigate it, but run away because it's causing you brain damage. Now we find that this noise is a concomitant of the microwave, because with the fray effect, with microwave, you can actually modulate the voice frequencies onto the microwave, beam it at the person, and then that person will hear noises in their heads, but no one else will. It's called the fray effect.
The fray effect, or characterised as V2K, voice to skull?
Yeah, but that's called the fray effect, because Frey discovered it. Now, Lee said that the British were the worst nightmare race in the West, and had literally killed tens of thousands of people with microwave and driven hundreds of thousands of people mad. Prior to meeting him, there was some weird American who came over in 1996 with all these newspaper reports from American newspapers on microwave weapons and why they should be banned from 70s papers. So it was common knowledge in US papers in the 70s. And that then, because I was getting microwaved by the British, I built a steel room earthed to protect myself against microwave, because microwave is totally and utterly blocked by the thinnest of steel sheeting. Aluminium's useless because it won't block out the magnetic effect. So the electric effect's blocked, but the magnetic effect isn't, which then means that the microwave still passes through aluminium but attenuated. Even if you earth it, it will still pass through. The same with copper. But iron, which is magnetic, blocks the B of the
That's why you had a layered sheets.
Yeah, that's even better. But just simple.
It acts like the core of a transformer.
It takes away the B or the H component of the electromagnetic radiation. The E is blocked by the metal, and therefore you get zero effect. They can be pumping a megawatt of microwave at the steel, and none of the microwave will get through. What happens then is the microwave converts to infrared when it hits the steel, and you'll get heat passing through. So my floor, with that, there's a microwave van up there constantly blasting away at the flat, and there's fleets round. There's images on the website. They used to have like 18 or 20 vans parked around, desperate to try and do something. The microwave will get converted into heat, which then passes through the floor by conduction or through convection through the little gaps in the floor. And microwave will pass through a tenth of its wavelength. So you've got to basically make sure, if you're getting microwave fired at you, that the steel sheeting is meeting up, and there are no gaps. So when I built my bunker, I just used self-tappers along every seam to close every single seam off. This, of course, meant...
What distance would you have between the self-tappers?
I'd have them next... Well, you'll see when you come in the flat. They're next to each other.
Yeah.
So you then have compression.
Because you could have re-radiation of certain other frequencies depending on the gaps between... You'd have a dipole there, if you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could re-radiate.
But except if you have the self-tappers next to each other, then the compression...
between the self-tappers.
Yeah. And the most important part of building a steel room is the ceiling, because when I go to Vietnam, the US have got a weapons platform over Vietnam for beaming microwave at the Vietnamese government and Russians, and they can see you from space if it's a clear day. So if it's a clear day, you know you're going to get funny noises in your head. And Elon Musk, because I went to Vietnam, SpaceX launched a special satellite to put over Vietnam, which was lost allegedly just because I was living in Vietnam. That was at the start of the year. So these weapons platforms can see you from space, and then they'll be trying to fire a maser at you from space in order to do you in. And so the most important thing, if like myself, your aim is to destroy the West, kill off all the A-listers, turn MI5 into zombies or corpses. There have been so many MI5 wankers that have died of cancer, heart attacks, strokes, gone mad because I target MI5 habitually. That if
surely MI5 are the domestic intelligence agency, and they're here to help English citizens or British citizens from hostile powers and keep everybody happy and safe.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm a hostile power, running rampant, doing what I want, developing psychic warfare, and now with my psychic warfare assault weapon, psychic warfare grenade, psychic warfare mine, psychic warfare knife missile, psychic warfare Iron Maiden, psychic warfare death coffin, just designing weapon systems targeted specifically to zombie-ize, control and kill Westerners. So as you can see, it's not that...
Why Westerners? Is there a genetic connection?
No, it's because the Rothschilds said they'd crush me like a flea and my ramblings would have no effect on reality.
Your mildly sort of...
No,
no,
honour the threat. Honour the threat. The Rothschilds have decided that I'm their enemy. So I've decided to not only do them in, but destroy their kingdom. So it's just simply honouring the threat. And of course, I don't have to worry, because Vladimir Putin is under sentence of death from the Rothschilds, because he was put in place by the Rothschilds to just be an interim manager before Khodorkovsky took over Russia, after Boris Berezovsky, who was running Russia via Yeltsin's daughter, got all of Russia for the Rothschilds, who gave all the money to the oligarchs via the Rothschild Institute to buy all the resources of Russia. And so Abramovich and the rest of them, Khodorkovsky, all were funded by the Rothschilds to buy up Russia, and Yeltsin gave them all the rights to all of the big companies' resources of Russia. And when he stepped down, they needed another Russian as an interim, rather than the Jew Khodorkovsky. So Putin said, I'll just be the interim, and I'll step down and Khodorkovsky can take over. But then Putin double-crossed the Rothschilds and took over, which was the end of the Rothschilds' plan to conquer the planet. And as you can imagine, there's a blood feud between the Rothschilds and the Russians.
But Putin is a very good psychic warrior himself.
Most certainly.
And I know people who've met him. And... he's not messing about.
Not at all. But remember, the Russians. But remember, the Russians are pig shit ignorant when it comes to developing science which doesn't exist. Remember, Tony Stark Rifat's in the business not of like the physicists in their little boxes, describing the inside of the box which they're in to more and more meticulous detail as a remote viewer. And the only proven precognitive remote viewer who can actually see the future, I predicted Cobalt-60 world, where North Korea would be dropping H-bombs on America, which would be doped with Cobalt-60 to wipe out America. Not with the explosions, but with Cobalt-60, which kills you in 3 minutes, and 1,000th of a gram will kill you dead. So you can imagine one hit by an H-bomb on Seattle or LA or San Francisco will wipe out the United States, because 50 tons will wipe out the Northern Hemisphere and 100 tons will wipe out the planet. And thanks to the exterminator of the human race, the man that has ended the human race, Elon Musk, the human race is dead, doomed, gone. Why? Because if you look at a Tesla car, in the battery you've got 33 pounds of cobalt, and when you hit that with a nuclear weapon, the neutrons turn the cobalt-59 into cobalt-60, which then is released, vaporized, and then kills, potentially, from one car, 15 million people. Now, if you go to Hong Kong like myself, you'll see Tesla cars everywhere. If you go to London, you'll see Tesla cars everywhere.
All over the place.
If you go to Seattle or San Francisco or LA, or let alone the Elon Musk battery factory, which will wipe out the planet many times over. So you can see one nuclear weapon from North Korea, it's the end of the human race. That's why Trump wandered off with Pompeo to North Korea and begged Kim Jong-un to stop, because the Americans are dead, they know it. And the strange thing is that a guy called Tim Rifat, 15, 16, 17 years ago, was talking about this Cobalt-60 world, and on the Jeff Rentz show, which I've been doing for since 1997, August 1997,
Talk about Jeff Rentz, I mean, that was...
describing Cobalt-60 world, and the West would be dying from Cobalt-60. Everyone was laughing. Even I didn't believe that the West was stupid enough to have an F-tard like Elon Musk and put all this cobalt into cities which were going to be hit by H-bombs. And then the next thing I predicted on the Rent show 15, 16, 17 years ago was Chad World, that I was going to weaponize wetware. I call humans wetware because they simply have no thoughts in their head. They're simply controlled by whoever knows how to control the wetware. Remember, the brain of a human is simply controllable by radio frequencies, controllable by telepathy, controllable by exotic physics, controllable by 5G. So that I said I was going to destroy the West with wetware by bringing in all the third world migrants into the West in order to collapse their societies and produce the Mad Max world, or what I call Chad World, which is a third world country in the Sahel. And according to reports in the papers, not me, there are 500,000 people in the Sahel, which is basically the region around the Sahara, in the Sahara, who are waiting to come to Europe. According to David Davis, you might have heard of him, he's a wanker in the Tory government, there are 40 million of these non-whites on the move into Europe. And they all want to come to Britain. So I'm saying to the British, please open your doors to these 40 million migrants immediately, and the 500 million from the Sahel, so I can watch Europe turn into Chad World, not in the next 10 years, but overnight. As you can see with the knifings in London, the acid, the steel barrings, the shootings, a lot of these are migrant children. And then the whites are copying them. White children are copying them. And what we're doing is turning London into a version of Chad. If you don't know what Chad is a third world shithole, according to Trump. Trump calls these countries shitholes. I, of course, being LGBT black, would say they're wonderful countries, and the sooner Europe becomes like Chad or like Mali, or like Nicaragua, the better. Because, of course, you know, we're multicultural, and we need all of these people to turn America into Nicaragua, and Britain, of course, into Chad or Libya. Libya's a lovely model for Britain, don't you think?
Well, we created it. We bombed the hell out of it.
Yeah, now of course, thanks to that, we're getting all of the wetware coming across to produce Chadwell. Then my next statement, because both of those are now here, was that 10 years from now, the number one cause of death among A-listers would be psychic warfare. Because as you can guess, I've developed the science of psychic warfare. And if you are a entrepreneur, then you can simply tell the A-lister, be it Brad Pitt or Clooney or Taylor Swift or the Koch brothers or Abramovich. I'll give you an example. I said to Abramovich last season, pay me £1 million, otherwise I'll ruin Chelsea. This season it was, pay me £10 million, you bastard, otherwise I'm going to ruin Chelsea. He just laughed, and in fact he didn't laugh, he ran off to Putin to get the Russian psychic warfare program to protect him against me. Unfortunately for him, they failed, and as you can see, Abramovich is now banned from the UK, had to get an Israeli passport. Chelsea are not even in the Champions League. I said I'd do that to Chelsea after draining them dry last season. And I did say last season I'd get Man City to win the Premier League because they're a nice Arab club and they're great for psychic warfare. Because if you're into psychic warfare, the key to psychic warfare isn't knowledge. So you can study from now until eternity psychic warfare, and you will never ever be able to do it. Why? Because psychic warfare is a high energy pursuit. You need massive amounts of energy, or whatever the stuff is of psychic, the force or chi or prana or scalar, in order to practice psychic warfare. And the wetware, who have got the energy of a cockroach, have zero chance of ever competing in the psychic warfare field. My whole pursuit throughout my life has been to gain more and more and more and more energy to build my energy field up. Why? Because when, for example, you're doing remote viewing, you project either your bioplasmic field, which is the field of your space-like body, to a target, which is what shamans call dreaming awake, or you project your dreaming body, which is the so-called astral body, or the body made from soul fluid, according to Russian research. And remember, the Russians have got scanners to actually see bioplasm, which is the Cullian photography effect. It doesn't actually see bioplasm, it sees the interaction of bioplasm with the high electrostatic field, which then produces photons. So it's like a wake. It's like a wake. So the Cullian photography is the wake of the bioplasmic field through the electrostatic field. But that's by the by. Anyway, with Abramovich, I said I'd ruin him and his team, and strangely enough, front page, Abramovich was banned from the UK. Why? Well, because the fucktards called MI5 had suddenly worked out that if you're going to get into psychic warfare, the number one field to dominate for psychic warfare is football. Why? Because football is the religion of the human race. All of the human race, the wetware, are supplying massive amounts of energy to whatever they worship. They used to supply it to churches, so I still go around churches in Brighton and suck out the energy of Christianity. But football has taken over, so one can see why one would want Manchester City to win the Premier League, because of course they're a good Arab team. My father was a Muslim. I of course made sure that Man City won the Premier League this season by 100 points, the most ever, in order that all that energy would come to me for psychic warfare.
Now, does that include the accessing the jinn, the Arab accessing the so-called energy beings before humanity arrived, the jinn?
Yep, which
the BBC were accessing.
Yeah, Yeah, and all of these entities which humans can't see, I can see because, of course, I'm not blind, deaf and dumb like a normal human. Seems that you see with the CIA, they were trying to find psychics, implant them, hypnotise them, use them. But of course,
doing that in Northern Ireland, Puppet Labs companies there accessing people who can access the consciousness field of computers.
Yep.
Swarm technology. We can discuss this later in a less windy environment.
But they're all fucktards because the only game in town is energy. So if you're going to be the dominant in psychic warfare, which has always been my aim, then you want to control football, and the inceptor of football was Britain. That's where the game was created. You then want to possess the team that wins the Premier League. So like in pharaonic times, all that energy comes to the upline, which is me. I'm the pharaoh of psychic warfare. Everyone worships me. They don't know they're worshipping me. I don't honestly care they're worshipping me. I get the energy.
And you have a...
That's why...
You have a walk-on part, I gather, in certain films.
Films, no. It's the Hollywood movie industry is stealing blind all of my intellectual property and sticking it in films. But of course, it's fun because remember, films are there to suck energy out of the audience, and then I basically hack the Hollywood industry, which is part of the control of the noosphere of the deep state US military, and instead of the energy going to the US psychic warfare program, it comes to me. And that's why I also manipulate, control, and generally upset A-list singers in order to suck them dry.
And they're there to suck the energy from the public.
Yeah, and I'm there to suck energy out of them. So
it's getting a little bit blowy here, I think. So maybe this is a good introduction, and maybe we could retire to see this slightly disturbed domestic.
Yeah, the MI5 were rather upset at all of my work in Vietnam, which was there to use the energy of Vietnam, which destroyed the American superpower and the French, just to weaponize it, to bring it back to the UK, to deploy it in the UK in order to, as I say, upset the apple cart and bring alarm and despondency behind enemy lines. So MI5 are in a state of torment. If you think that what I've been saying is rather strange, just go on Jeff Rentz in his archive and you'll hear 20 years worth of me talking like this years before it ever happened.
Now, briefly, it is getting very windy, there were big spider type things seen, octiform big things seen coming out of temples, and stories about that which happened during the World War II. And
that's Kenneth Grant's spiders, which are the backside of the Kabbalistic tree. Kenneth Grant, who was the
Vietnam War.
No, the Aleister Crowley's apprentice has written 10 books on the spiders of Set, which are these entities at the backside of the Kabbalistic tree. And if, like myself, you're a remote viewer and go into intradimensional areas, you'll find these black spiders are simply dark energy matter beings that feed off the human cattle. Humans think that they're apex predators, but in fact the only purpose of humans is as chickens to be fed on either by transhumans like myself, or by the dark energy, strange energy matter, or aliens who have been breeding humans. Why? Because humans are completely insane, and unlike normal aliens, they can love and hate simultaneously. And they can totally love and totally hate simultaneously, which is mandatory if you're going to control the grid, which underlies the quantum vacuum, in order to be able to control reality. So that's why the aliens have breeding programs, because they need this insane aspect of humans, which is a must-have in order to control the grid, which you can then change the quantum wave function. Then you can control reality, rather like Q in Star Trek. And aliens simply can't do what humans do, which is love and hate someone simultaneously. Any husband or wife can simply tell you, I do that all the time. I fucking hate my husband. Well, I love him as well. Or children. You can hate them and love them simultaneously. That is not something that the grey or the insectile or the reptiloid or even the Nordic can do. So you can see why the Scientologists talk about all of the war criminals, all the bad souls being walked into wetware specially designed for them, and then a huge breeding program to produce the insane humans. And if you look at a human, it's totally off its box, totally off its trolley. It's either the millennial zombie, which has the intelligence of a fucktard, and according to Norwegian studies, the intelligence of humans has been going down since 1975 by 2 or 3 points. So ever since 1975, the intelligence of humans has been going down. They're not quite sure why, but of course, if you think of intelligence as being a resultant of energy fields, and I'm simply, as an apex predator, predating on humans with my vampire technology and sucking them dry with a mind sucker vampire, then of course you would find that humans would be losing intelligence. Similarly with their bodies, they're getting obese and ugly. Simply, I'm just taking out the sublime good from the human race and supplying it to myself. Why? Because I'm following what the Illuminati do. I'm the king of the Illuminati. The Rothschilds have gone mad, but even the Rothschilds can't argue that I have all the power and they have the psychic and spiritual power of a lemming.
Is that insulting lemmings?
No, I don't like lemmings myself. The only good lemming is a napalm lemming, actually. Napalm them as they go off the cliff. So you can see that all of this stuff, if you listen to the Jeff Rent Show and all of my utterances, which are provoking. I love provoking people. Why? If you provoke people, make them your enemy, then they agree to the contract. Zero-sum game. You're my enemy. You agree that you want to harm me. Therefore, I can harm you, suck you dry, rip your soul out, stick it into a omega hell environment to provide loads of energy. If you've watched The Serpent and the Rainbow, you see that voodoo bokors have been into that when they zombie-eyes someone with the venom from a pufferfish. They ritually take out the soul and put the soul in a soul bottle. They did the same with the ritual assassination of Diana, took her soul out. The same with Kennedy, that's why his brain was missing. They take out part of the body organs in order to put the soul in a soul bottle. The same with pharaohs, their organs came out so their soul could be placed in the pyramids, which are giant psychotronic generators. Psychotronic generators amplify psychic power. So as you can see, back to Abramovich, he was going to build this big cathedral to football in the centre of London in order to suck out the energy of football and give it to the Russian psychic warfare program. And the MI5 fucktards decided that they didn't fancy this very much. They've got one of their own who's off reservation and doing a Freddy Krueger on them.
Who's that?
Me. And they didn't fancy Russians joining the pack. So my motto is, I'm arming the Russians, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, the North Koreans, anyone and their dog who wants to destroy the West with the weapon systems that they couldn't invent themselves because they're all brain dead. Remember, there's only two races for creative science, the Germans and the English, or the British actually, because you've got loads of Scottish geniuses like Higgs and the greatest physicist of the 20th century, Dirac, and all the quantum mechanics by Heisenberg, and the Germans. So as you can see, since my mother was a Prussian, I have a natural tendency to be good at physics and maths. Her father was
Prussians instigated, not mind control, but the control of armies because their armies weren't killing enough, so they
Exactly. So the same with psychic warfare. It's not killing enough people. So I wanted to develop psychic warfare to the point where it could not only kill off all the A-listers or turn the Rothschilds into my puppets, but be able then to develop the Georgia Guidestones. And so instead of using viruses or bacteria, you could then use developed remote killing technology like the psychic warfare assault weapon in order to reduce the world population to 500 million. So as you can see, psychic warfare, which is silent weapons for quiet wars, is front story, front page news. Abramovich was banned from the UK and had to become an Israeli citizen because of psychic warfare, but it was never mentioned. Now we see with going back to the Steel Room, finally to end this introduction to the benevolent, wonderful, huggable Tim Rifat, who's only got your best interest at heart as long as you do what I want, that Lee explained to me the British were merciless killers. The Northern Irish doctors sent me loads of information about streetfuls of Catholics killed by MI5's microwave weapons. Each house, they were dying of cancers you'd only see once in a lifetime, and every Catholic in each house was dying of these cancers because they'd been irradiated from army bases.
They were putting prisoners in the H blocks,
being microwaved,
but in
like the Milosevic death cells.
The tanks.
Yeah.
Water tanks. Zero sensing, cut all their senses.
Yeah, of course. But remember, the British are the worst race on the planet. I wouldn't have developed into the wonderful, huggable, delightful, sweet, pleasant Tim Tony Stark Rifat if I'd been born in any other country. Because remember, I've been through the grammar school system and educated in their universities and learnt the British way, which of course is it's my way or we'll torture you to death. Remember, the British invented concentration camps. So Lee was telling me that Greenham Common, look at all of the microwave women, all of whom died from cancer. John Smith, the leader of the Labour Party, killed with a microwave weapon. I've got the DIA documents in the back of my first book, published by Random House, and taken out of that CIA document, Alistair Phillips hasn't originally sent me the original document, is use of microwave weapons to cause heart attacks. So John Smith was killed by MI5 to allow the Rothschild puppet Tony Blair into power. Robin Cook, the Foreign Secretary, who was against the Iraq War, was killed out walking with a microwave weapon for a heart attack by MI5 again, in order to get rid of him. And Tony Blair, of course, was then ordered by the Rothschilds to bring in 7 million immigrants in order to dilute the culture of the UK, because the Rothschilds' only enemy is uppity whites who are upset that all of their money is getting taken away and stolen by the Zionist banking kleptocrats and their non-Zionist lieutenants like Buffett.
And Blair shut down Romania, so the Romanians and the Far Eastern European countries would come in.
Yeah. Now we've got 1 million Poles and 400,000 Romanians who bring their wonder.
Their country was destroyed.
Yeah. And now, of course, they're coming into Britain, and Britain's being destroyed by my wetware technology, the use of wetware to turn Britain into a version of Mad Maxville. Because, as you can see from London, extrapolate that 10 years into the future, and you'll see that every city in Britain will be ravaged by these adults. They're only teenagers now, and all the young kids that are following the teenagers, all of whom are controlled by my wetware programs and controlled to murder, rape and pillage and destroy Britain. And of course, you might say, what's the point of him doing this to our wonderful Western society? Well, the kicker is Illuminati. What did the Illuminati do? They cause a problem, don't they? And then they have chaos, and then they come along with a solution. So by giving away all the psychic warfare, remote killing technology to the Russians and the Chinese and the Vietnamese, etc., and the North Koreans, I haven't given away the much more advanced technology to protect yourself against the technology I've released.
Problem reaction solution, David.
Exactly. So if the Rothschilds or A-listers want to be protected from this plague of silent death, the Dale Winton phenomena, you know, Dale Winton found dead in his flat. If they want to not end up like Dale Winton, then of course they have to pay me. And we're not talking about a few $1,000s. So if you're an A-lister at $1 million a year contract, if you're the Rothschilds and you're quadrillionaires, then we're talking trillions to protect them against the technology I've released, which then of course makes me super rich by doing absolutely and utterly nothing but watching the carnage I've produced by releasing this information to the public and to the Russians, the Chinese, the Vietnamese. So you see why I open source everything. I want everyone in the world practicing psychic warfare. And if people upset you, kill them with psychic warfare. You can't kill them physically, it's against the law. But psychic warfare is not covered by the Geneva Convention. If you are jealous of Gwyneth Paltrow or Amal Clooney or Emma Stone or Madonna, well then learn psychic warfare, kill them, or blackmail them and say, if you don't pay me $1 million in Bitcoin, I'm going to spend the next 6 months concentrating on making you ill, old and killing you. As you see with Taylor Swift, she's been subject to psychic warfare and gone from being a 9, some people would say she's a 10, when 2007, to a horsey-faced, sturdy girl who is now terrified of being remotely killed by yours truly. So you can see the name of the game is business. Make psychic warfare public, release it to the public. Everyone's got to practice. You can start with the Russian or the Czech mind machine, where you've got a glass.
Kirchhoff's mirrors.
Well, no, you can. You just have a vein in a vacuum without any light, in a darkened room, so you don't get light pressure, and you just practice moving the veins or moving a needle around a meniscus, which is what occultists have been doing, non-magnetized. Just working on being able to fixate your awareness on one thing and causing tiny changes. Because remember, to kill Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't require a lot of telekinesis. All you've got to do is be able to move a little vein and then, or a needle on a meniscus, and then go into Gwyneth Paltrow's DNA to switch on the oncogenes that cause cancer, or go into her head to cause snapping of blood vessels to cause a stroke, or make a psychic pin and go into Gwyneth Paltrow's insular cortex to give her permanent heart attacks, or into the myocardium to destroy her heart function. As you can see, this isn't unavailable to even fucktards who are the loner type, you know, the goth girl or the loner male fixated on hating people. These are perfect. As we can see with psychotronic generators, you can simply buy them off me to get the energy to be able to do this, practice, and then after you've done your first kill, your first A-lister, you can then move on to your second, your third, and make a business out of it. This, of course...
Does this have, surely this has blowback?
No blowback, because the press is never, ever going to document me. Why? Because the moment they document me, everyone and their dog will suddenly want to do Tim Tony Stark Rifat's psychic warfare. Anyone with a grudge, anyone who hates their wife, their boss, their husband, will want to do it. The Russian state, the Chinese state are copying me. We've got the Vietnamese, the North Koreans. We've got the Americans desperately trying to duplicate my technology, spending hundreds of billions on it to get nowhere, because, as I say, I've weaponized cyberspace to kill Americans and the French by using the Vietnamese energy. That's why I went to Vietnam for 3 months to build weapons specifically designed to kill Americans, French, and anyone associated with the French, which is the European Union, the Australians, and of course the Canadians that upline to the froggy Trudeau. And you might ask, well, has he got a chip? No, it's business. I simply follow the great Donald Trump, who I absolutely adore, and I've used psychic warfare to get elected. Why? It's not personal, it's business. This world is a jungle, and if you're going to become a billionaire and then a trillionaire, which I'm going to become, then you've got to cause such a humongous problem that the only person in town who can put it right is me. And if they don't, I simply stay back, sit there and watch A-listers all dead 10 years from now, and 25 years from now, when it gets into using psychic warfare for race war, the country that develops psychic warfare first will then be able to cleanse the planet of the other races. So as you can see, the British and the Americans have got an enormous problem. I've been talking this way on the Rent Show for 20 years, since 1997. Never has any of the media ever talked about this stuff. I'm actually talking in a polite, diplomatic manner. If you listen to my Rent shows, you'll find that I use the most atrocious, unpleasant language going. I'm the worst shock jock in America, and I'm called Terrible Tim by Jeff Rents. So go back on the archive and you'll hear me saying the most atrocious, nasty, vindictive, unpleasant stuff going. Why? Because I like provoking you. I want you as my enemy, so you get into a zero-sum game with me, and then I can suck you dry and put your soul into my specially designed Omega Hell. Because remember, souls can supply much more energy than normal humans, because if you've got someone tortured for all eternity, the satanic form of technology, which I got from the great Lord Lucifer. You might ask, how can he talk to the great Lord Lucifer? Well, if you're a remote viewer, you can go into the noosphere, find the entity called Lucifer and talk to him. Or you can go in there and find other entities like the Superman entity, because if people worship an entity, it then exists in the noosphere, which is this field of consciousness that surrounds the planet.
Which is, of course, the reason why these are created in the first place.
Exactly. And, of course, I've been weaponizing or possessing these entities for use in psychic warfare. And as you can see, Hollywood is all about control of the noosphere. And I decided, well, the Americans designed it. I want it now. So I simply took it off the Americans. And instead of the energy going to their programs, it comes to me. And you can say, why is he still alive? Well, it's pretty obvious. If they assassinate me, then there's no solution to the problem. The psychic warfare assault weapon was the beginning of designing all the weapons for the Chinese, Russians, etc., all the enemies of the West, which could not be duplicated by the West because they're based upon the Vietnamese energy. And if the Americans try and duplicate them, it simply destroys their people because it's booby-trapped. If an American tries to use the psychic warfare assault weapon built in Vietnam by the Vietnamese, then it simply kills, makes ill, destroys everyone in the radius of that weapon system, which of course exists as an energy field or a quantum mechanical event horizon or exotic physics. I won't go into all of that because humans are fucktards. Which then blows up in their face. So you can imagine how upset they were with the psychic warfare assault weapon, let alone the psychic warfare combat knife, which was deployed, the Illuminati sword, which you see on top of the Crown Court in London. The blindfolded lady with the scales and the sword, that's the Illuminati sword. That's the basis of the psychic warfare combat knife, which is designed to kill Westerners. Then we got the mine, designed from North Korean mines, but in energetic space. And the point of it is, humans exist in complex number space, and if you kill the complex number space version of a human and then insert it into the human physical body by eye to the eye, which is a allowing complex number physics to cause real-world effects, you can then slowly kill and destroy the humans. So every A-lister on the planet has had their complex number body killed by me, and then the corpse possessed by death, which exists in the noosphere, which you can then possess like the Exorcist. Think of me like the demon in The Exorcist. I can go into people or beings in the noosphere, possess them, control them, and use them for myself. Why? Because I've got more energy than they have. I'm like Godzilla in
That's what I meant by blowback. Does the user, the inappropriate user, when they're using your psychic warfare...
It's not inappropriate because I make everyone my enemy.
Right, but would they...
I don't pick on people...
Would they then...
I don't pick on people who are my friends. That's inappropriate. I only pick upon my enemies. So I want as many enemies as possible, and I want as many people paying their taxes and supporting the government, because they then agree to become my enemies. So everyone who supports MI5, the British government, the Americans and the Westerners who want to do me in, has agreed to become my enemy. So it's only personal friends I don't attack, or people I make into vampires, which are versions of myself, that are off limits, because that's inappropriate. Everyone else, open season. So I agree with you.
So
There is no blowback because I only attack my enemies. And I provoke them. And remember, we live in the West in a total police state, which is only there for the Rothschilds. So if you are not a slave of the Rothschilds, then you're their enemy. Here I'm specifically going after the Rothschilds, possess them, drive them mad, kill them, destroy their empire. So that then means that the entire West is my enemy, apart from those few who join me. So you can see there's no inappropriate behaviour. You simply have the whole West as your enemy, then you can destroy the whole West, which is fun. If you go after people who've have no ill thought towards you or no ill feeling, then I agree it's inappropriate. And unless you have a scapegoat to dump your blowback onto, then it will cause madness in the attacker. That's what normally happens. If you have inappropriate use of psychic warfare, it drives the person mad. If, like myself, you have appropriate use of psychic warfare, you become super sane. And you gain silent knowledge, and you're then capable of knowing exactly what to do, when to do it. And as you can see, the British government's in meltdown about this technology, and has been for the past 20 odd years. They phoned me up and said, we're going to burn out your gallbladder, we're going to make sure you can't sleep, because every time you try and go into delta sleep, we're going to jam it, we're going to drive you mad, put you in a mental hospital, implant you, and when you come out, you're going to work for us. I thought, that's a good deal, yeah. Let's do that. Let's become one of these super soldier wanks with all these implants in the head, with multiple personalities, on a regime of drugs, who are used by the Rothschilds as their shock troops against the Ruskies and the Chinks and the Vietnamese and the North Koreans and the Iranians. Yeah, that's a good idea. No, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to fuck you over. I'm going to burn down your empire, and I'm going to destroy the Rothschilds. I thought, yeah, that's a good mission. But of course, if it's one man against the Rothschilds who ruled an entire empire, that was way back in, when was it, 97, when they said they'd do that to me. I thought, that's not going to happen overnight. Even one man without a dog, let alone with a dog, that's a long mission. So as you can see, it's taken me a good 20 years to get to the position now where every Rothschild on the planet is controlled by my weapon systems. They're now having their civil war, killing each other. I think Alexander de Rothschild wants to pay me loads of money so that I don't burn down the empire. Jacob and the congenital idiot Nathaniel, with all of their daughter Rothschilds, are so pissed off by yours truly that they want to burn me to death with microwaves, not blow up a plane or do an assassination, as we see from the bunker, where we had 8 men with sledgehammers and angle grinders coming into the flat on the pretext of a water leak on the 6th floor.
Is that up here?
Yeah, we're going there in the next few minutes. and then trying to demolish the place and the steel room so they could then burn me alive when I came back from the Far East, and of course disconnecting the power so it was in absolute darkness. So now I think we should adjourn to the only flat in the history of the UK where a water leak on the 6th floor, I'm on the 5th floor, led to this amount of damage. And now, of course, I'm suing the council and the police, who then said it was a bomb-making factory, the home of some Muslim terrorist, and they named him. They can't name me, so it was some bomb maker, fictitious, and then they kicked out the residents of the block from, 8 until about 3:30. And ransacked the place, destroyed all my property, which you'll see, on top of the council demolishing the flat. And now, of course, I'm contacting all the human rights, civil liberties solicitors because I'm an LGBT black man. This is racial profiling, and even the dog agrees. And lo and behold, they're all too busy, or this is too big a case for them. Isn't that strange? So whether I'll get a civil rights, human rights, civil liberties solicitor ever in this country to help a poor little racially profiled LGBT black man is a moot point, because MI5 seems to be going around all of the directors. I phoned them up, they said, oh no, the director says this is too big a case, or we're too busy. All of the top human rights, civil liberties solicitors in London. So we know, of course, that the entire legal profession is rigged. So I might get some little solicitor that wants to make their name and become another Amal Clooney suing the government for 7 figures. But whether I get one or not is a moot point. So shall we adjourn to the flat to see this scene of devastation and the terrible conditions this poor man, this racially profiled non-white, is living under? Talk about Grenfell Towers, they're living in paradise. I'm living in a bombed out building when you look at the damage. It'd be too nasty.
So this is something to do with some...
Yeah, while I was away on the 18th...
Somebody decided to modify your flat or somewhere?
No, the MI5 have been operating the flat there to try and microwave. This was left empty for a good 2 years, and they tried to use that flat. The woman died, so they started using that flat for microwave. I know Barry underneath, he's okay. And the woman dropped dead in November just before I left. So they had access to that flat and just left the taps running on the 6th floor. So water was pouring down from the 6th floor through my flat into Barry's flat beneath. And this was the pretext for trying to gain entry to see whether there was any electrical problems, which is fair enough. They couldn't get any access, so they had to smash their way in. So let's look at the damage done by, according to one of the residents who I know, he was here remonstrating with the council because they had 8 people in there with sledgehammers and angle grinders for a water leak. And he said, what are you doing? You'll go mad, you're smashing his place up. Oh no, he's dead in his room. No, he isn't dead, he's gone away to China. Oh, well, we're still going to smash it down anyway. So that was the excuse. Once they got in, they thought I was dead, even though they could see into the steel room. And of course they had to destroy the steel room because I was coming back from Hong Kong, and they wanted to make sure that when I came back they could kill me, do a John Smith on me or a Robin Cook on me, and I wouldn't survive the night. And when I came back, of course, they ripped all the power out.
So you're sort of generally not too happy with this?
No, I'm going to target the British government, MI5, and the great and the good in Britain with remote killing technology, and develop more and more weapon systems for the Russians, the Chinese, the psychic warfare assault weapon, psychic warfare combat knife, the psychic warfare landmine, the psychic warfare knife missile, the psychic warfare Iron Maiden, the psychic warfare death coffin, the soon coming out the psychic warfare Terminator, all designed to kill the great and the good in the West. So if you're one of the NATO command and control people, you'll be controlled or killed by this technology. If you're Theresa May and the MPs, you'll be controlled to destroy the country with Brexit. Just goes on and on. Or bring in, like Merkel, to bring in as many migrants as possible to turn Europe into Chadwell. So there's always payback. Don't get mad, get even, and then kick the shit out of them, and then hellbase them. So have a look at this.
You've got electricity now?
Sorry?
You have electric light, it's been returned. Yeah, that's obvious.
Oh, well, I'll explain to you what happened with the electrics. This is fun. This is going to be most amusing. Have a look at this. And we've got the whole door frame that's been smashed to pieces. Look at this. This is how it was left. This was a normal door. Look at this. You put your hand in there. Look.
Wow.
This was you know, look at the wallpaper. We'll go through the whole flat. It's wonderful. This is the first time in the history of the UK that a water leak on the 6th floor has led to this amount of damage in a flat where there wasn't a water leak, done by the council, then by the police, fire brigade and the bomb squad for a Muslim terrorist who was named in the Daily Star, who doesn't even live here, on the pretext that the water leak allows them to basically destroy, and there's so much property stolen as well. I've got 3 remote viewing books that were in the living room which have now vanished. All my documentation, receipts for my companies, bank statements, all gone. And of course, what they did here was to break the seal on the seaboard side. These were disconnected when I left, so there was no power in the flat, no problem from the electricity, no need to come into the flat because the power was off, so there would never have been any problems. But they'd gone into the sealed parts here, which have got the seal from the seaboard, ripped out the fuse, and they just dumped it. So if I'd called in an electrician, they would have said, sorry, we can't touch it, because the only people that can touch this part, which is the other side of the switchgear, is the seaboard or the electricity board. So then I've had to get the electricity board in to do it when they could manage. And remember, they don't come immediately, so you could be 2 days, 3 days without power before they come round. They're not like an electrician. They'll come round when they can come round. And when I came in, I came to the door and there were no keys because the keys were new. The keys were unavailable, so I had to then go down to my local CAF, use his mobile phone my cousin. She had to come over with the keys, which the council wouldn't give her, but the police had given her. So she unlocked the door, and this was early in the morning, thankfully, not late at night, because this was dark. So you can imagine at night you'd be in absolute darkness, and then as you walk in, so this was in absolute darkness. I had to put the electricity back, being teaching physics, it's easy for me. This is what they left for a water leak. Sorry, I don't quite understand in the history of the UK, any flat in the history of the UK has ever had this level of damage done to it for a water leak that doesn't even exist in the flat, and no electrical problem because the power was switched off when I left way back in November. So just go in and have a look around the room. You'll enjoy it. Be careful not to fall over and kill yourself, or be careful your legs, because they're jagged bits of metal which will rip open your legs. You might have to take you to accidents and emergency if you trip over. And then, of course, all of this metal was taken down, so I put this up to stop getting microwaved into the doorway. So this was completely taken down. I put this back up. Took me all of an hour. So all of that effort, all that got them was me putting that back up. That did it on my own. That must have taken me, half an hour or something. This had what all they succeeded in was taking the metal down, and this metal here had been taken away. I just put the metal up again. All of this had been taken away. This wasn't how it is. This is just Heath Robinson until I put a proper metal door on again. This had been taken away all the way back to here. As you can see, look at this. This is left in the hall. You can see that they're not even making any claim to be following the law. We've already got so many breaches of health and safety. So this was left like that.
And remember, this is you're entering in total darkness.
Oh yeah. But it was in the morning, thankfully. The room was in total darkness. Luckily, I came back and I was here around 8ish.
And that shows you the self-tappers.
Oh no, I'll show you inside. Oh. And then of course we had the wallpaper all ripped off the walls. If we see here, all of this.
Why did he do that?
Pure malice. Remember I've driven the British government mad with all my research, and this was the grill on the front door. So I had a glass door with this grill, so this is what they did to the grill, and they'd left that in the hall for me to trip over. So that's the amount of effort they put into cutting their way through, because I had a wooden door with glass and then new locks, and then that was over the glass. So you can
angle grinded, I think, or
you can see that. Look. So I can see this was just pure vindictive malice on the side of the British government that's been driven mad by my technology. So those of you who say this guy's bullshitting and the British government wouldn't do this, no, sorry. In the history of Britain, this has never happened for a water leak that's not even in this flat. And now we go into the bathroom where they went on the rampage. So we see in the bathroom, property just smashed up and put in the bath.
Is that a Tesla coil or something?
That was one of my ozone generators, smashed to pieces. We see again the wallpaper. I don't know what they did there. Look at the sink. I've left it as is, because I'm not doing anything till
these pipes for something, or is it?
That's just overflow leaks.
Yeah.
Then we go into the living room. And we had the telly that was in my room smashed. More of my ozone generators smashed to pieces, left on the floor. I put them under there, they were on the floor. All of my remote viewing books, all stolen. And then of course we've got, went into the kitchen and ripped out the light fitting, which they also did in my room, so you couldn't even put the lights on in my room because that had been ripped out. Now we're going to the bunker. So remember this piece of metal here wasn't here, all of this I just put, because I just slide it across and it just blocks it completely off. So they've gone to all this effort to get nowhere. So if you look here, you'll be able to see sharp bits of metal which they've left to gouge you at head height. When you get in, I'll show you. But first of all, take the chains off. Whenever I go out, I chain it up and then super glue the padlocks so no one can get in, because normally they'd be covering the bed in flesh-eating bacteria or poisoning or stealing whenever I go out. So now they can't get in there. So switch it off for a second. I'll get
on with the combination.
Just pretend I'm asleep in the corner. You just found me. Hello.
Well, welcome to Faces, whatever the heck it is, part 3 or 4, whatever damn number it is.
Part 2. 88, part 2, isn't it?
No, something like that.
We've done the introduction a couple of weeks ago.
So to just purely steal?
And we're here in Brighton.
We are. We're in the flat of Tim Rifat. His mother's old flat, actually.
I mean the walls and they just steal?
It's quite shocking seeing what they did to it. I just want to say to people, if you're not sure about this story, all you've got to do is go onto Google and type in Brighton flat evacuated. Google it with the word police in or something, and you'll see all the news articles telling the story of what didn't happen here, and you'll see the bomb squad van and all the pictures outside it. So it's just,
We better go. Let's go. Let's go into the. Wow.
You haven't seen there's plenty more. Look at this, look. I'll have to get special people with cutting tools that can cut in restricted spaces. I can't do it with an angle grinder because if it bounces in this restricted...
you'll
kill yourself.
Yeah.
You've seen Hostel 2, where she gets in the head. So,
no, I haven't actually. Hostel 1 was bad enough.
So, you know, and there's more when you come in. Do you want to give me the camera or...?
Yeah.
If you look at the doorway, look at the jagged bits of metal at leg height. You can come in and see. Look at the jagged bits of metal at leg height. Down there, look.
Yeah, that's...
How many breaches of health and safety is this?
Well, I think when they do things like this, they are meant to leave it in a safe condition.
They have to, by law.
Because, I mean, they can do whatever they want to get in, but they must leave it in a safe... So I think this is technically a breach of health and safety regulations.
I think so.
There may be other regulations involved.
Yeah, and then you come in.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna... Yeah, just... it's just one.
There we are. Well, I take the...
This side of that side.
Anyway. Everything in here was on the floor, smashed. I've left that outside how it was in here. You've seen on the floor, haven't you?
Yeah, I could probably get a better view from this side.
You're not agile, are you?
No, it's me. I've got bigger shoes. I'm not a fit, lean, young thing like you. Right, okay. Yeah.
That's how the whole flat, in here was, and the rest of the flat. My cousin cleaned out outside. They left the entire flat like that. She had to clear the hall. All those bits of metal were in the hall. You know the ones in the bedroom? There were tons of bits littered in the hall. It was like an assault course. And there was jagged bits of metal down there, as they tried to demolish this bit here with sledgehammers.
So, Tim, I think there's a television program which I could mimic. And what would you do in a house like this?
I think what one would do...
what is the purpose of this room, and what would you do in it?
I use this for remote viewing to block out electromagnetic radiation, and also to make sure that I didn't suffer the same fate as John Smith or Robin Cook, or the Green and Common women, or the poor Catholics in Northern Ireland, or the tens of thousands of other people who've been slaughtered by the MI5 death squads. Which I did
if we look at it the other way, so I get the light on.
Which I didn't even know about if it hadn't been for the CIA agent called Lee. If you want his full name, I can give it to you, but I do think there's a US law that you can't give the full identities of CIA agents. But if people don't believe it, I'll give them their full name. And the Russians put him in the newspapers, so I'm sure RT will release information. Have
you been speaking to Russia today?
No, not yet.
I mean, the important thing about this is screening out against incoming electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah.
Which means that your remote viewing is obviously using another form of...
Yeah, torsion fields, of course, can travel at 9 billion times the speed of light and can pass through any sort of shielding.
So are you saying that's what?
No, I'm saying torsion fields, which physicists in the West have ignored for, have ignored. The Germans, of course, didn't. The Ahnenurber have been developing torsion field technology, which they were using in the deep mine complex in Czechoslovakia. So that torsion field technology was then developed by the Russians, and now the Russians have loads and loads of torsion field equipment, which of course can see British and US submarines underwater with ease. So the Trident program is a waste of money, and because of Elon Musk, if they ever used it, they'd wipe out the human race. So you can see from the viewpoint of the military industrial complex, they have to shut people like me up, hence the D notice, because you're not going to spend 100 billion on Trident if you listen to the Jeff Rent show and you know that if ever an H-bomb landed on St. Petersburg or Moscow or Beijing, the resultant release of cobalt-60 would wipe out the human race. The human race is going to end because there's going to be a war between Pakistan and India eventually, and by then there'll be so many electric cars in Mumbai and Delhi that the human race will be extinct. So thanks to Elon, the human race is gone. So Stephen Hawking was saying...
I mean, this isn't in Toyota.
Oh, all the electric cars have cobalt, yeah. So I'm just picking on Elon because he's got the biggest amount of cobalt, but the ones made by other car companies are maybe the hybrids have got 11 pounds, and the big Tesla have 33 pounds.
And the batteries in the back of the Dream
5 million people will be killed by a hybrid each, and you can imagine how many hybrids are. So let's take this I'll take the electrical thing off so you see how it was when I came back.
There it is.
Oh, it's running.
Hi, folks.
Here he is.
What do you actually call this place? Do you have a name?
The bunker.
Ein Bunker. Sorry, no, sorry, is that...
It's the bunker.
It's just the bunker.
The bunker.
We just call it the bunker.
It's the bunker. That's what it's called.
Welcome from the bunker from Tim Rifat.
And then look at these jagged bits of metal here, eye height. And you've got the metal down there to trip you up as you come in. This was in absolute darkness. It would have been for days if I hadn't been able... Look, we're here as well. Put your finger on that. Yeah, I'll test for the sharpness. Put your finger.
No, I'm
You going?
This is the kind of stuff...
No.
There,
Yeah.
that bit.
Is this kind of metal you use for making transformer cores?
It's just
Sheet metal.
Yeah, it's just sheet metal. It's easy.
Yeah.
And look at the other side. Put your hand up the other side. On these, no, in this side. That's the other side. As you're coming through.
Just there.
Get that in the eyes.
Yeah.
How many health and safety violations are there here? And remember, that was left open. That was all disconnected. I put the wiring back together myself. They left disconnect. When I and the lights fitting up there, they'd ripped out. So I had to put they'd ripped it right at the ceiling. So I had to take the metal plating off and repair the. You couldn't turn the lights on, even if you had power, because they'd ripped the light fitting out. Is this normal for a water leak, son? I don't quite. Is this normal?
Yeah.
In the history of water leaks, has this ever?
You got a lot of plastic bags.
Most certainly.
Okay,
I think that's.
we'll go into the other room. I mean, is this your normal door?
I normally do this. I'm very agile. The chains are up there to keep the MI5 scum out while I'm out.
So you see the old mattress in there. How long do you think that mattress has been stuck in that room? 20 odd years, mate. That's why it's full of plastic.
Have you got a record ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, well, this is Miles and the Basis Project. Basis 88, Part 2, I think.
Part 2, yeah.
Closing out Part 2 in Tim Rifat's flat in Brighton. We've been in round the remote view bunker, and we've seen the chaos the place is. He's said that's a wrap, so we'll call that a wrap, and we'll get this out as Basis 88 Part 2. Investigating this strange world of